Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is about time I finally made a guide for Lili. I've been sitting on this for a while because I knew Season 4 wouldn't be done and there'd be more updates and stuff like that. So I had most of the notes finished. I was just waiting for the last big change, which just happened. And the updates in the Season 4.2 or whatever it is are just massive for the character. Lots of hype, a lot of people thinking she's so good. Now, she got much, much better. This is a nowhere near a bottom 5 character anymore. So you're going to see people playing her, and you're going to see people getting blown up because they're not used to playing against her. So now is the time. This is perfect opportunity for a Lili guide, so here it is. So let's get started with punishment. I think this is always a good place to start because this is basically the list of your fastest, strongest moves. And these are always a good thing to have locked and loaded as you learn everything else that evolves from here on out. So remembering these moves is key because they're going to appear all over the place. Your opponent's going to make mistakes and you have to capitalize on that free damage. So learning how to punish is very pivotal on top of, like I said, having a good list of moves to start from. You could live your entire life with jabs and hop kicks if you really wanted to, but there's still plenty more to learn. This is where it gets started from your punishers. So to begin with 10 frames, Lili has 1-2 jabs like most of the cast does, but she also has 1-2-3 and 1-2-4. You can see neither of these is a natural combo, it's just a mix-up afterward. The 1-2 does minimal damage, but if you want to go for the 3, that could hit them a lot. And if they feel like ducking, the mid hits them, right? 1-2-4 can generally be sidestepped, but if the 1-2 punches connect, I don't believe they can sidestep in there. They have to hold this mix-up. So that's a little bit annoying to deal with. You get a quick little punish and then some more annoyance. That's enough to keep your opponent guessing, you know, a little bit off balance, but it's not a huge reward. Your go-to 10-frame punisher is actually 2-4. This does a nice chunk of damage and it knocks down and potentially wall splats. The only real issue here is her 2 jab has much less range than her 1 jab. There are plenty of things you're going to block that are minus 10 or 11 that this will not reach. So you do have to be aware of that. You got to get a useful feel of pushback and realize this is going to work or it's not going to work. Let me just go for some jabs and then annoy them with that, right? So 10 frames got some options. You can go for a simple way or you can go for a slightly technical way to do it. 12 frame is also similar. You got 2 options here. One is 1+2. This is a unique 12 frame mid that not a lot of the cast has. Causes a knockdown, nice chunk of damage. That's perfectly fine, you'd say. At some point, I think it was Season 2, they decided that forward 2-3 needed to come from 13 frames down to 12. So now this move comes out in 12 frames, and you think, okay, well this has more damage, and you'll learn this move has fantastic range. This move can just punish anything. It's got super good range. So what do you need 1+2 for at this point? The only thing you need it for is mid. If you have a forward 2-3 punish where you're worried about a low profile situation, this could miss because it's a high. In that event, you have 1+2, which does the trick pretty well. Keep in mind that if you sidestep and go for a whiff punish, you cannot sidestep with 1+2 because that is a different move. So that's also another reason I think they added forward 2-3 so you could sidestep and do it a little bit better. So 12 is very good. You get nice damage and knockdowns with superior range at 12 frames. 13 back to 1 is all that's worth mentioning. It's not great damage, it's decent, but the takeaway here is your transition into other mix-ups. You can hold back and Lili stays back turned and can go for mix-ups from there, or you can hold forward and she goes into do glide. Both of these situations give her +7 frames, which is a very good advantage for her to run mix-ups. So if you straight up punish somebody with this and then go into do glide, they're not going to be able to challenge you well. You get basically a free mix-up out of that you could do lots and lots of things with. You can go into this and fake them out and all kinds of stuff. So as far as a punishment tool, this one isn't based on damage, this is based on potential. Back to 1 can actually get you some interesting stuff out of it. The next thing to talk about is her hop kick. At 15 frames, she has a hop kick, which is very good. It's got a nice long hitbox in, a little bit evasive. It's an above average hop kick. This is what you're going to use for pretty much anything you get a nice clean punish on, hop kick him. The other thing worth mentioning is 3-1. This has better range in the forward direction. That 3 kick reaches from way out there, and if you're near the wall, you get a wall bounce from it too. So 3-1 is better near the wall, does more damage, and you get your bounce. But other than that, your 15-frame hop kick is it. At 16, Lili's down forward 2 is a basic launcher. And it's not really like distinguishable in many ways. It's slightly more damage than your hop kick, but you don't need to know stuff that's 16 and go for this. You could just stick to your hop kick and live your life that way. There's no reason to bother. But it's there. 16 frames, down forward 2. Crouching punishers while standing 4 is excellent. It's 11 frames, but it knocks down. This is a knockdown off an 11 frame punish that still leaves Lili safe on block in case you miss. 13 frames, she has 1, 2. This is decent. 31 damage isn't bad. Actually, it's pretty decent, to be honest. It's pretty decent. You get plus 8 frames with it. That's actually a little above average, I guess, for 13. Some characters have 13s that also knock down, but you know, if you want a knockdown, you can go for this. If you want the damage at 13, you go for this and your frame advantage. Just be careful. If you miss, this can get ducked a lot and you'll get blown up for it. So don't miss. 14, we have the full crouch down forward 1. This move causes a nice flip over knockdown on normal hit. So at a 14 frame punisher, this is very good stuff to do. Like that move a lot. Got a nice hitbox to it. Not going to get low profile or anything. It reaches very far. And at 15, you have hop kick because it's a crouching position and you can press up to get a hop kick from crouch. So that's a good option at 15 frames. And 16 while standing 2. So those are kind of a similar paradigm, right? If it's 16, you do have while standing 2, which is a better launcher. Or while standing up, you have down forward 2, which is a better launcher, but you don't really need them. You could just stick with a hop kick and you'll be okay. It's just one more thing to learn down the road. Okay, I know that move is 16. Let me try to hit him with the big one, you know? That's all it is. It's just a little bit of embellishment. Your hop kick is good enough. Your down forward 2s are a little better if you need them. So let's talk about whiff punishing. Close range stuff, if you're just maneuvering around and you get a nice quick whiff, your 12 frame punishers, 1+2 is very good, and forward 2+3 is very good. This is just good in general, to just be dancing around them wherever you might be, and you see them come up short, bang, you can tag them with this in so many situations. It's really reliable. It's got such good range. This stops people in their tracks. You get a good clean sidestep off of somebody and they miss. Your sidestep 3 and all those follow-ups, very good. There's tons of things you can do here. Forward 4 is guaranteed. You could do the round out kick, which hits them, and then oki and stuff. Lots of things. Sidestep 3 is pretty good if you get a nice clean sidestep. Or if you get a nice clean sidestep, you can always hop kick as well, right? Keep that in mind. If you get a good clean whiff punish, hop kick is always available. If you're a little bit farther away, next on the list is forward 4. Forward 4 is an excellent whiff punish tool at longer distances. If you're outpacing them and they come up short, that's going to reach them like no matter where you are. It's about in the same territory as 3-1. If you happen to be near that wall, you want to look for whiff punishes with 3-1 so you can get that wall bounce. We'll talk a little bit more about it in the defensive section of the playstyle, but that's pretty much all you're looking for whiff punishes. Your 12 frame knockdowns are good, your hop kick is pretty reliable, and you've got some really good long range stuff. So let's take a look at two key components of Lili's offense, her do glide stance and back turn. Do glide isn't as much of a mix-up stance as it would be for many other characters. She doesn't like trap you into it and force you into a mix-up. It's more about movement and utility than it is anything else. Whereas back turn is more of a classical mix-up situation. You just don't get there all the time. When you do, you tend to find yourself in like a nice little spot to go for a cool mix-up or just poke your way back out of. Utility is what's important with this character more than anything else. You gotta be flexible, you gotta be ready for what may or may not happen next. So do glide is just done by doing a quarter circle forward. It's a roll dash, as a lot of characters have. Down, down, forward, forward. Your move list, it looks like this. It's just a quarter circle, 2D fireball motion for the most part. Some characters in Tekken have this kind of crouch dash that results from it. As a little side diversion, there is a technique that I just call fake roll dash, which you just tap down, down, forward without completing the quarter circle. What you get are while standing moves instead of crouch dash moves. This is kind of a useful technique all around. Once you get used to it, it's actually kind of cool. It's just done, like I said, down, down, forward, and let it go. Just don't complete the circle. Just do that little fake circle, and they'll slide along the ground. You'll get the crouch dash, but what you get at the end is while standing moves. It's a very useful technique. So needless to say, the do glide motion does leave Lili crouching. In a situation where she doesn't have an attack, you can access while standing moves with the full do glide as well. So first up is do glide 1-2. 36 damage is decent, but this is minus 14 on block, which is pretty bad for all that you're getting out of it. So the counterpart here is you can hold back and cancel that second hit. Which you think, oh, that's pretty good, that'll keep him guessing. But turns out the problem is even when Lili cancels and turned around, you can see now she's minus 17 plus backwards. So that's just a world of hurt. If they anticipate this in any way and are ready for you to cancel, they're going to blow you up big time. There's nothing you can do about it. The differential is way too big. You can't duck, you can't do anything. They could do whatever they want and hit you if they're keen on that cancel. So what do you do then? Why would you even bother with this? The difference here is if you just let it go, do that second hit, it will counter hit them. If they attempted to anticipate you canceling and try to hop kick you in the middle, right? If they saw this and went for a hop kick right there, well, if you let it rip, if you did the second hit and they had no idea, they get counter hit for it and you get a whole combo. So that's kind of a lot all at once, right? You can get a combo, but at the worst of circumstances. If they read the cancel, you get launched. If they do nothing and block, it's minus 14. What you can honestly do, though, to kind of keep it a little bit honest, is just do quarter circle ones and then stop. Quarter circle ones are only minus 12, I think. Minus 12. But you could do these repeatedly, and no one's going to really react to that. I guess if they did decide to go for the cancel interrupt, you could have them right there, and maybe if they hop kicked, whatever. All of this is a lot just for a little bit of a trick. But needless to say, if you go for this once in a while, you might catch an opponent. You can't really hit confirm this, which would kind of take away the whole game, right? So you can kind of use this out in the open and just realize, okay, I think I have him open for this, and decide to bail out at the last second and then play the game, but it's very risky. So do glide 1-2 is kind of up and down. It seems like it's a really good move, but man, the details of it are a little bit much. Do glide 2-1, however, is much better. You get almost as much damage. It's mid-mid. It's also a natural combo, except this one is very hit confirmable. Very easy to see that 2 and let it rip. You can delay it a lot and be too late like that, but you have all the time. This is a pretty easy hit confirm. Do quarter circle 2. As soon as you see it make contact, press the 1. Works great. Not only is it nice damage, this is very, very fast and is homing. It says 14 on the screen there in the frame data box, but the quarter circle counts. So this is more like 16 frames to input it, but 16 frame homing mid that gives you a knockdown and is fundamentally safe on block. Very, very good. That's an excellent move all around. If you do let it rip, this is minus 13 on block. That's kind of bad, but it's not great. Either way, you should never have that happen. You should never have anybody block that second hit, because if this gets blocked, you don't do the second hit. It's easy enough to confirm. So that's a super great utility move, period, up and down. Quarter circle 2-1 is excellent. It's good for approach. It's good for defense because it's fast. It's good for homing, good for wall pressure, everything. You could say the exact same thing about do glide 3+4. This might even be better. It's faster still. This can be done as fast as 14 frames. And on block, this move is +6, which is just astounding. +6 is a crazy amount. It's also a homing move. You think, wow, this is tremendous. Why wouldn't I use this? Because it's a high. The only thing that's wrong with it is it's a high. They could possibly duck in a situation and beat you with that. All highs have an inherent risk in this game. Mids are there to back that up. That's why mids are usually more unsafe, right? This is how the game works. But pair these two together. The do glide 2-1, which is a mid homing knockdown, and do glide 3+4, which is a high homing frame trap. Those are excellent moves right away. Those are moves that are used more for their utility in neutral to get this frame trap than it is to use the mix-up itself, right? The do glide stance isn't as good a mix-up as what you get from it. It's more of a utility. So there's a couple other things worth noting with this stance. She doesn't have a 4. There's no do glide 4. So what happens if you input quarter circle 4, you get while standing 4, right? Because she was crouching and then she stands up, well, you just get while standing 4. So add that to the list. You could basically think of this as do glide 4, which is an 11 frame mid that knocks down and is safe on block. This is really good in neutral. Just be able to do glide into that is excellent. And that's done just because she has a while standing 4, right? And you can do the same thing. So if you also do glide and then just press 3, you can get while standing 3 the same way. Not as practical, but it can fool people from time to time. This is more of a gimmick move than it is a good utility. But if you just do quarter circle and then 3, there is no do glide 3, so what you get instead is while standing 3. Now there's a little trick that I can't fully explain why this works, but if you do quarter circle 3 and hold the forward, you get this. This is actually Lili's full crouch down forward 3. So if you do glide and hold in the forward direction when you press 3, you get this, which I can't fully explain. So she's actually standing up when she does this, and then crouches again. It's weird. She activates a full crouch move from do glide by just holding forward. Do glide 3 and hold it in, you get this. So it's the only low that's accessible like this, so it needed to be somewhere, right? They just didn't program necessarily as do glide 3. They just there's a way to access it by holding forward and leave it at that. So quarter circle forward and hold forward when you press 3, you get a low, which is a counter hit launcher, and now crushes highs pretty quickly. So you can actually kind of use this in some setups and beat out people's jabs way better than you used to. So there's a teeny bit of a mix-up in there, but it's not what you're going to use this stance for. Its utility is much more important. So let's take a look at moves that do transition into do glide and what you can get from them. The first things to mention are back 3 and back 4, these little hops. If you just do these and hold forward, you get do glide out of it. More of a gimmick than anything else, but you can kind of, you know, run around people and just, you know, mess with them, stuff like that. Pretend like you're not doing anything, and all of a sudden, bang, you hit them with that. It's possible. The rest of these moves are just basic attacks that when you hold forward, you go into do glide. Needless to say, if these moves get blocked and you go into do glide, you are at a pretty decent disadvantage. You should not just, like, do this and keep attacking. That's very, very bad news. But if they happen to hit this move, you can go into do glide safely and have nice frames to back yourself up. You got to learn the difference. If your attacks get blocked, you should not continue into do glide and try to mix them up. It's a very, very bad idea. If your move hits, you can go for that mix up or whatever you feel like is appropriate at the time. So out of all of these moves, back 1 is the only one that's like kind of decent if it gets blocked. Back 1 into do glide, you can see here is +1. That's better. That's enough that you can work with it, but it's still not great. All the rest of these, look at back 2-1 into do glide. That's -4. They block that move and you go into do glide, -4. Bad news. And the rest are like this. So there's back 1, back 2-1 into do glide. There's 3-2, which is much slower and has a high in it, so that's a tough one as well. Forward 3 goes into do glide, as well as up 3, the single flip, and then up 3-3, the flip into the kick, which is the same kick as forward 3, right? So you can just do this into do glide on its own, or do 2 hits into do glide, because you're basically getting that same forward 3 kick again. All of those, on block, do not continue into do glide. The last thing out of do glide that's worth knowing is sidestep. Go into do glide and sidestep. That's what saves you most of the time. If this move gets blocked and you go into do glide, like, oh, I can't attack, just sidestep and get out of there. That's all you need. Back 1 has some options, which we'll cover later in the full playstyle section, but all the rest of these moves, do this and go into do glide. If they get blocked, you got to get out of there, which is sidestep. Works pretty well, to be honest. You can actually bait people out pretty big time if you get good at this and sidestepping out of there. So that utility, more than the mix-up, is what it is. Going in and then getting out. You know, going in, bail out, and then counterattack, etc. So then let's talk about the back turn stance. This is a little bit more of a conventional mix-up opportunity. She doesn't do anything different out of here. She just has some pretty decent buttons. Back turn is done by just doing back 3+4 on its own, in addition to all the moves that can transition into it. So once you're back turned, you have 1-2 jabs, which if you look at the frame box are 8 frames. Instead of 10. Most characters that have a back turn fighting style have faster buttons because you have to turn around. That's just the way that it works. So an 8-frame string, 1-2 is a natural combo. Doesn't jail. They can actually duck that too if they wanted to. So it's just a basic jab string otherwise. However, they just added 1-4, which is pretty much superior in every way in my opinion. Does more damage. This would wall splat if it were nearby. It also doesn't jail, but the frames are much, much better. This is still safe on block, plus 10 on hit. This is really good. And like I said, near the wall, you get wall splats. So back turn 1-4, really good string. It's just high, so be careful there, right? Well, next up is back turn 2. This is a mid. At 14 frames, this is a mid counter hit launcher, which is also very nice to have. safe on block, and can use a screw attack in the middle of combos too. So very versatile mid right away. Good mid overall from back turned. 3, back turn 3 is just a kind of generic turnaround kick. Safe on block, but knocks down. So honestly, that's not bad either, right? Just get off me. If you do something, you know, into back turn and then just get off, that works well too because it's safe. Back turn 4, however, is where it starts to get fun. This little flip over thing. Okay, we got a nice little flip. But if you do 4, 3 plus 4 keeps going. She has all these flips coming out of it. This whole thing connects as a counter hit, which is kind of hard for you to read. You sort of have to just go for it. But the cool thing about this is the properties it has. If you watch the status in the box, it actually says airborne standing a lot. And there are crouch frames in the beginning. She's clearly going under jabs when she first takes that tumble. So it's crouch, stand, jump, jump, stand, right? Jabs and lows are going to just miss like crazy. But this is kind of a risk. It's not the worst thing in the world. Minus 11 for the first part of it. Minus 10 for the second part. In addition to back turns, right? So it can actually get worse. They can actually hit you with a shoulder or something fairly bad. So these aren't super great, but if you feel like a counter hit is coming, or you know they're going to go for something high and you sloop right under it, that works well. Next up is up forward 4. She has a back turned hop kick, so to speak, at only 9 frames. And it's a mid. Despite the huge high hitbox on it, this is a mid. And it's only minus 12 on block. That's pretty good overall. Back turned hop kick works wonders. If you think there's going to like duck jab you or down 4 to stop your mix up right here, that hop kick beats a lot of opportunities. But it's unsafe with good reason, right? It's a very, very powerful move. That should be at least minus 12. But since it's a mid, that's one of your go-to options. She also has another mid in back turn 1+2, which is a natural launcher. This move is only minus 10, and it forces the opponent to crouch on block. So the only thing they could do is their duck jab. What does that do? Like 7 damage? 5 damage? I'd consider that fundamentally safe, right? I'm not going to worry about getting punished by that. This is a mostly safe mid launcher to back everything else up. So there is hop kick at a little bit of risk, because it low crushes and everything. And then there's back turn 1+2, which is a natural launcher with no risk. Cool stuff, right? We're getting pretty good so far. Next up is 3+4. 3+4, you'll notice, leaves Lili back turned. She also has a hit confirmable follow-up, which is 2. It's basically the same back turn 2, but she could do it immediately out of this. It's not just waiting and doing 2. This is a string by itself, and is also hit confirmable. You have plenty of time to see that and get the knockdown that way. So that's kind of cool. It's the only difference in this version of it, however, is this isn't safe on block. That 2 hit is now minus 11 because it's, you know, natural combo and confirmable and stuff like that. That's got a little bit of risk. But this stuff is really cool because it can just leap over things altogether sometimes. You can get hit out of the air, but if they come running at you or sliding or whatever, this jumps over stuff all the time and you get tons of rewards from it. So remember 3+4 to just kind of flip at them, and you can just do nothing, right? Make them think about it for a second and then do nothing, or then do it again and go for the counter hit, whatever it might be. And the last ones are the lows. She has a generic down 4, which is anything but generic. Notice this is 10 frames, which is much faster than normal. It crushes under jabs. She's ducking here. But this is +3 on hit. Do note her normal down 4 is only -2 on hit. The back turn version, +3. So this is very, very good. You don't even have to go for like a real mix-up. When you go back turn, you can kind of just like down 4 to bail out, and you still maintain the advantage, which is very, very cool. So do not ever underestimate back turn and just go into down 4 and going from there, right? Otherwise, she has down 3-4, which isn't very good. It requires a counter hit. It's pretty bad on block. Even like the mid itself, this is 13. That's not very good. You don't want to do this. Not when you could do just a down 4 and keep your offense, or you could do down 3+4 and get this big ass knockdown. This is ultra risky. It's slow. People can see it and react to it, but it will hit people sometimes. If you're doing, you know, offensive stuff and you cancel and go for mix-ups, that'll hit people occasionally. Cool thing is once you do this, down 3-4 is also guaranteed. So you get the other string for free. And on top of that, if you're a teeny bit to the left here, you can actually get a combo from this. Only to the left. Only if Lili is a little bit to her left when this connects can you pick this up for a combo. which is also excellent, right? Tons and tons of rewards here. He's got to mitigate the risk. This is the riskiest move she has, but it's what really ties the room together. A very dangerous low they got to think about. Everything else are some good pokes. 1-4 is a great tool. This 3 kick, get off me, is great. Safe mid counter hit launcher, mid natural hit launcher, hop kicks, flips, everything. Really cool stance all around. So you can kind of play it however you want to. You can go for heavy mix-ups all the time, or you can just jab them and get out of there and keep running, whatever you want to do. So let's take a look at the moves that can get you into back turned, and most of these are done by just holding back during or after the string. The first one I mentioned is do glide 1-2, that if you hold back, it actually cancels the second hit of the string. She does not deliver the hit, she cancels into back turned. This is not one of the better ones, but it does exist, and you can use it for a big trick if you feel like it, as we mentioned before. Otherwise, you have some more practical uses of this. 3 kick. 3 goes into back turn by itself. You don't have to press anything, nor can you press anything else to change it. This is going to go back turn no matter what. So it's worth remembering that if for no other reason you do something like 3-2, we talked about this is one of your do glide transitions. If you were going for this, for example, and you got traded, if they traded your first hit right away and they make contact during this 3, it'll leave you back turned. Right? It'll interrupt you, you'll take the hit, and you'll stay back turn. So be warned, if you throw out a 3 attack, it's possible to get stuck back turn without you thinking about it. Because you don't have to press a button, it just does that. Pretty much everything else, though, you do have to press a button. Down forward 2 is one, you gotta hold back in order to do it. Just normally, Lili faces forward, but if you hold back, Lili turns around. While standing 2 is the exact same move, basically. Hold back to turn around, or do nothing to stay forward. Back 2-1. We've seen this one twice now. Remember, holding forward can go into do glide, and holding back can go into back turned, which is very kind of cool. This is a very useful one. You'll see a little bit more of its usage in the playstyle section. This actually has like a couple of neat spots. So back 2-1 is kind of cool because it can do both. Forward 4, the root of all evil. This little low number can also turn Lili backwards, which I think you should do pretty much every time. If this is going to hit people, people can block it. It's not super fast, but you're mostly going to hit people with it. You're going to want to be back turned with this +4 because you get tons of stuff. You get more low harassment, you get your counter hit fishing, whatever it might be. So forward 4 is kind of an annoying low, but it's a little on the risky side. It's good for going into back turn and taking even more risk, right? If you want to keep mixing people up and do crazy stuff, this is a great way to do it. Next up is up forward 4. This is new. They added it recently so you could hold back and stop this first hit into back turn. Rather than performing the second hit for the wall bounce, you can just do the first hit and cancel. You can't make the read, you can't tell which one you need and do it, you had to commit. But if you just decide to hold back, you can cancel this one into back turn. Also has an interesting little property if you catch it just a tip. That's guaranteed. If she does this and holds back, she goes back turn, but if she lands at just the very edge, she's actually +9 at the highest. I can't get it again. Anyway, you can see where it says +6, right? If you land at the very tip, you can go as much as +9. And if you're +9, that is free. Guaranteed they can't do anything about it. So that's kind of a cool way to go back turn, but that's pretty much all you're going to use it for, right? Is if you get that, which is really hard to tell in a match, you have no way to know if that was +7 or if that was +9, kind of just go for it, but it's there. The rest of these, you do not have to press back to turn around because they kind of just leave her that way. Down forward 3 +4, this round off kick leaves her backwards, as well as pressing both buttons, both extensions. The 3 +4 extension does the same thing, automatically back turned. If you're already back turned, the 4 tumble kick leaves her that way, as does the extension, the 3 +4 extension, leaves her the same condition. And we talked about the flip, the 3 +4 big flip, leaves her back turned without having to press anything. So that's about it. Back turned is a nice little mix-up situation. She's got some good stuff there. As long as you're able to recognize when to not press your advantage and when you got him on the ropes to go for that really cool flippy knockdown stuff, go for it. That's what the character is all about, is that utility to be able to play it safe or to play it wild. It's up to you. So we talked about punishers, your primary defensive tool. When your opponent makes a mistake, how you capitalize damage from it. We talked about Lili's two stances, one of which is a good result for offense. The other one is very utility in its origin. So let's just take a look at the general play style of the character, what she does well versus what she doesn't, and the kind of things you use in various situations. So I kind of want to go over it in like sections, compartments, so to speak. Different categories of moves. Here's what you do from here. Here's what you have available there, etc., etc. So for the most part, Lili up close is not the strongest character, but the fact that she has one of the best sidesteps in the game can also turn this to her advantage. If you're up close and jab jab and sidestep, that stuff works really well. Because up close she loses, her best moves are not fast, she doesn't have good counter hits like a magic 4 or anything. Up close, a lot of characters would just destroy her because they would get the advantage before she did, right? They would get something to their favor. Lili has to either catch a miracle up close or be out here to get something like that. But her sidestep is what comes in handy. So when you're up close, you got to think about all your poking in terms of just sidestepping. Do this and backdash. Do this, sidestep, whatever it might be. So up close, you do have some quick little low pokes that can work, and you have a couple of pressure tactics, but that's not your strength. For the most part, if you're not in a good situation for a mix-up, you want to get out and you want to stay mobile. Stay out here and stay moving so you have more options, rather than getting pinned up in jab range where your jab type moves are not very good. So when it comes to movement, remember, the sidestep is one of the best in the game. She's going to be able to sidestep things that other characters can't, and she can move circles around opponents that get too greedy. Movement is very important. In that regard, there is a link in the description to another video about just movement, and there's a section in there on roll dash and how to do the fake roll dash. So also having that at your disposal when it comes to moving in and out on people is very useful. So you might want to check that out to make sure you understand exactly what roll dash can do and how to do fake roll dash, to really keep your offense fresh and have all your tools at disposal and be able to move in at a heartbeat. So check that out if you need to, and then come back here. So first off, I want to just talk about standing neutral attacks. What do you have and what do they do? What we really see is a lot of these are actually very good moves. They're just either slow or short, which is why she doesn't do so well in the up-close neutral game. She has a 1-2-3 string and a 1-2-4. This is actually kind of cool, it's just not great. This low is annoying, and this mid is safe. So if someone anticipates the low and blocks, obviously they get hit by the mid. There's a mix-up and everything, and if they decide to sidestep this mid, you're in trouble. So this isn't a great tool to use all the time, it's just enough to be annoying. Every so often when you're doing the dance or whatever and you catch like a punish, you go for that low, just to keep it spicy so they don't realize it. What also is interesting is you can cut out the first hit, the one jab, and just do 2-3. So if they're used to this 1-2, 1-2, and then 1-2 low all of a sudden, if you start hitting them with that, it really changes their mental timing. They were not ready for that. They were keying in on 2 punches before the low comes out, right? So that can actually work pretty well. Not to mention the fact that that's a natural combo. They can't even block that one. The counterpart here, though, however, 2-4 is no longer a mix-up because this is now a high instead of a mid, and they can duck to beat both. If they do recognize that 2 jab, they can fuzzy low parry that and duck the high afterwards. So be careful with all of this. It's not great, but it's enough to just be annoying. Once in a while, you throw out that low. You know, you do the quick low, and then you switch to the mid, stuff like that. It's there, but it's just a very basic entry-level sort of annoying tool, right? Not a great strategy. Next up is the 4-kick. It's not a magic 4, there's no counter hit property, but it's actually a pretty good attack. It's 12 frames, and it's +7 on hit, which is totally decent. This is a fairly good poke overall. It's just not one of the best, you know? A lot of other characters can beat this out. Their version of it is much better. This is the beginning of her 10 string. It does that, but I wouldn't honestly ever press anything beyond that. 4-1 is still a natural combo. It does a little bit more damage, but it's like 0 on hit, maybe even +1 at best. I would rather just pop them with this and take my +7 frames and go from there, right? Do this and continue my offense, rather than this little extra 5 damage and, you know, risk getting counter hit on my own turn, you know? Next up is down forward 1 at 13 frames. This is now in the same category of other characters down forward 1s. They've adjusted its hitbox so it hits low profiling characters. It reaches from much further away than it ever did. This is now actually a legitimate down forward 1, maybe even in the top half. It's definitely not the worst down forward one in the game like it used to be. This works to keep opponents from backdashing, keeps them from tracking to your left and stuff like that. This move does what it was always intended to do, to be a mid-check in your kind of poking offense. Also, the fact that it's -1 on block is actually pretty good. Being -1 is decent because you still have the full arsenal of sidestep and backdashing. Compared to characters like Kazumi, whose down forward 1 was really good, that's actually -4, I think now. Because it was so good and so oppressive, they had to make Kazumi -4 so she couldn't just keep doing it. So -1 is actually kind of a blessing. Now that this down forward 1 is really good and has the range, also being -1 on block to let you bail out of there, it's excellent. So down forward 1 is immediately one of her better moves now because it's something she always needed and now she has. After that, at 14 frames, is now forward 1+2. This is a pretty interesting move. It's very, very short, has no tracking, which, as we mentioned, is one of the weak parts when you're up close, right? It's safe on block, though. It's a mid that's safe on block, and when it hits, it causes that little bend over state. It makes them +4 and forces crouch. This is a very interesting situation, which we'll talk about later in depth, what you get when you have that particular advantage and what you can do from it. So on hit, that's actually very good. On block, it's totally safe, and on counter hit, when you get up, you can pop them like that. Even if they don't move, you can do that for guaranteed damage as well. So forward 1+2 is actually really good. Counter hit follow-ups, pressure situation, really good pressure situation on hit, and safe on block. It's very stubby and it doesn't track. That's the only problem with it, and that's a lot of these moves. Same with the next move, up back 1. At 15 frames, very short range, doesn't track at all. But and now this move has kind of its own little utility that it never had before. There's no more counter hit property, but on any hit, it does this. So you get a guaranteed down 3, and if they move, you pop them for anything you want to. They do anything trying to get up, and they get bopped. So up back 1 is actually kind of cool now. It's also safe on block, -9, so it's barely safe, but you get the knockdown on hit, you get free damage, you get pressure or whatever. Again, no tracking and no range. So it's a great move, but you have to be right up here, and as soon as you know what I mean, like your opportunity to use that move can go away very quickly. If they backdash once, all of a sudden you're out of the range of all this stuff. So you have to have like the right situation to do moves like this and set them up. They're not great in neutral when your opponent is also mobile. They're too short. Forward 3+4 is another move that has pretty good range, but also doesn't track super well. I just like it overall because it's another safe mid. -4 on block is pretty good for a move like this. It jumps over lows entirely. She's airborne for big parts of this. Knocks down. Really good overall. It does have extensions. You can press 3 and then 4 to change it like that, but if you do that, all of a sudden the last hit becomes like -20 something on block, and all you've gained is a little bit of damage. What does that do? 32 versus 23. 9 damage. Yeah, that's a nice bit of damage, but if they happen to have blocked this, they're going to blow you up for that bad, so I don't think it's ever worth it. This by itself, being a safe mid, the knockdown right at their feet, you got pressure right away on them, I think that's really good. And the other two moves in basic standing neutral to go over are back 2-1 and back 1. Back 2-1 has an extension. Both punches can follow up with that third hit, but it's really worth noting this move can hold forward to go into do glide or hold backwards to go into back turned. And back 1 is a similar situation. You can press 4, it has a natural combo extension, or you can press forward to go into do glide. And we'll talk about both of these moves more extensively in the mix-up offense section, but these are just the kind of last two to round out your basic standing arsenal of moves. And if you look at it on paper, they seem like they're really good. This 4 is decent for not being magic. Her down forward 1 is good. This mid is excellent. The counter hit properties, the forced crouch. This mid is cool. This mid beats lows and still safe. This is cool. Their only problem is they don't track at all. They have 0 tracking up close, which a lot of people can blow up, and the rest of them have no range, so a simple backdash gets you out a lot of these. So the coolest moves that she has are actually really cool. They just have some weaknesses, which are why she's not that good up close. If these moves had a little bit of tracking or better range, she'd be a monster up close. And that's not the way she's designed. Lili's a little bit more flexible out here. She can do much more nasty stuff to you, get in, hit you once, and then get back out and start sidestepping. That's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. She's not supposed to stay in and wave dash in your face like Mike Tyson, you know? So that's why she has those kind of weaknesses built in. Her up close moves are cool, they're just not super strong. There's ways to beat them. So next up, let's look at moves that are from crouch. If you end up in crouching or you quickly duck a high or whatever, she has a basic duck jab that you have to do by down back one. She has a different move under down one, so you have to do down back one to duck jab. And it's a duck jab, it's not good, it's a duck jab. They beat everything in the game, right? You can do anything you want and then just duck jab. So it has that function, it's just, you know, what are you going to say about a duck jab? It's what they do. Otherwise from crouch, you got a while standing 4, which at the normal 11 frames is exceptional because it knocks the opponent down and stays safe on block. This is a fantastic while standing 4 to have. To just be in their face and be able to do that and knock them down is tremendous. Otherwise, you do have while standing 1-2, which can do a little bit more damage. The drawback to this is if that happened to get blocked, if you're using this as a neutral tool, right? If you're just doing this like on approach, a lot of people are going to duck that. They're ready to see that because they're used to this one as well. That's going to get ducked, and that was going to get ducked, so people are ready for that stuff. The advantage here now is while standing 1, 2, 4. If that third hit lands as a counter hit now, you get a combo from it. So that's only there to discourage people from getting greedy. If they just duck this and then pop you back real quick, there's nothing they can do. But if they duck this and try to do like big delayed hop kick or something like that, they can get counter hit by the third hit and you kind of steal your turn back. So that's the only reason that exists. Otherwise, this is a little bit risky to use on offense. It's better off to just use your 13 frame punish. As a 13 frame while standing punish, the damage is nice. You get +8 to continue your offense. That's really good. That's enough. I wouldn't use it too much more beyond that, but it does kind of have some uses to it. Even just like the basic while standing 1 and approach, you can do that. Just be super careful of that getting ducked. Other moves from crouch, she has full crouch down forward 1. This is another safe mid that knocks your opponent down. This is at 14 frames and does a nice bit of damage. This is a cool move all around. The interesting thing is on counter hit now, you get a free follow-up. This has a new counter hit property that causes that bounce state on knockdown, and you get an extra follow-up. You got 50 damage from that little counter hit from a mid that was safe. A 14 frame mid that was safe can lead you to 50 damage. That is really good. But again, not superb range on this move. It does what it needs to do. It's actually kind of cool. It'll hit the opponent when they're on the ground as soon as they start moving. So in like Oki situations, you can kind of keep the pressure on with that as well. And if it does counter hit like a get up kick, then hooray for you, 50 damage. Its counterpart is full crouch down forward 3, which is a low. This also in the last patch got some attention, and the fact that it now crushes highs pretty well. This used to stay standing for like 20 frames, and now this gets crouch status in like 9. So things like back 1 into this move, that used to lose to jabs every time. If they just jab, they beat you out of this. Now it does not. Now this will beat jabs. It goes right under there just in time. So this having some crouch tech properties is actually pretty nice. In addition to its counter hit, is also a launcher. So full crouch down forward 1, safe mid knockdown, counter hit follow up. Full crouch down forward 3, low slide with some good crush properties, counter hit launcher. Just very bad on block and kind of bad on normal hit either. This is kind of an all or nothing thing. If you think you're going to get everything with that one key low, this is your low. That's your other utility from sidestep. Otherwise, the last tool out of sidestep out of crouch, excuse me. Your last tool out of crouch is sidestepping. Keep in mind that if you end up in a crouch, you can always sidestep up, which is also a very powerful tool for this character. If you just do something that leaves you crouch, sidestepping is still game, which is excellent. Anything you can do with this character that lets you sidestep afterward is really good. Keep that in mind. So those are your crouching tools, your from crouch tools. While standing 4 is excellent. And then your 2 full crouches, the mid versus the low, both have some pretty cool options built in there. Next up, let's tackle actual low attacks. Start with the generic down 4. Not a great move. 12 frames, -2 on hit. It's just a quick, like, stuff the move. Not a very good one. Down 3 is slower. This is 19 frames, but it has an absolutely silly amount of range. Try to get it just right. Right about there. That's a lot of range. That's downtown. She's hitting you with that low. The only problem is she's fully standing and she's vulnerable the whole time, so a faster, like, Magic 4 can just stuff her approach cleanly. But at 19 frames, it's a little slow, but it's not that bad. Superior range on this low, and it's +1 on hit. So having the +1 on hit lets you jab for free or whatever it might be. Your down forward 1 beats theirs, etc. So down 3 is pretty good. This used to be pretty much the only low she had that can deal with this. Nothing else was plus. Now, in the current state, we have down 1, 2. Down 1-2 is now a natural combo, which is just a huge benefit, considering the startup is 18 frames and ducks. So 19 frame with range, but she's still standing. This is 1 frame faster and it ducks highs, which is very good. So the full string by itself is +3 on hit. So since this is always going to hit as a combo, consider this a 1 frame faster version of this that's better on block, or better on hit, right? This is superior in almost every way. It's faster and it gives you much better advantage on hit. The only drawback is if they did happen to be ducking, they would block the first one and duck the second one completely. You could get blown up for doing this, but it's really meant to just be like kind of a hit and move, pop them and get out of their tool. Maybe a jab and then one of these. Don't rely on this too much because it is a low high, but if you're doing your thing right, if you're playing the game and you're staying mobile and you're hitting and you're getting out of there, they're never going to anticipate you doing that, so they're never going to be able to duck it correctly. Down 1-2 is now really good because of his frame advantage on hit. In addition to that, down 1 by itself is also much, much better now, because you can still do the first hit at 18 frames. You can hold down and stay in a crouch state if you like, and at this point you are 0 on hit. You're completely neutral, which is good enough because now the opponent is expecting this. They're expecting you to do this every time. If you just stop from there and do that, you know, stuff like that can really mess them up. Stop here and then hit them low again, then that, you know? That really messes with their timing. Once they get accustomed to this soon enough, just doing the first hit and then changing it up will really mess with people's timing. So down 1 at 0 in the remaining crouch is pretty interesting. It takes a little bit of maturing, right? You really need people to start getting used to this. Once they're used to that as the norm, then eventually you can just do 1 and then change it up from there. But it is there. The potential, I think, for that little trick is very, very high, because people are not going to be expecting you to do something different than this for the most part. The next one to mention is her back turn version of down 4. This is far superior than the front version. The front version is 12 frames -2 on hit. Well, this one is 10 frames because it's back turns, so it's essentially the same kind of thing, right? Most back turn characters have faster attacks from this state, so the speed is about the same. They both high crush. However, this guy, this is +3 on hit compared to -2. +3 on hit is excellent. That's an excellent situation to have from this quick little low poke. You can do whatever you want from there. Go for the counter hit, you know, go for frame traps, etc. Back turn down 4 is very, very good. The more often you can do this and just kind of, you know, turn backwards out in the middle of movement and catch that one instead of the front one, really good opportunity. And the last major low to discuss is the root of evil. Forward, forward, 4. This is a little on the slower side, period. At 22 frames, people can see this and block it on reaction a lot of times, but not every time. It's a little bit risky, but what you get is actually pretty cool. On normal hit, you get plenty of frame advantage. Not to mention, you can turn backwards. If you hold backwards while this move is going on, Lili stays in back turned, which is a really, really good opportunity here. At +4 back turned, you have a lot of things that are straight up unstoppable. They can't beat that. They can't beat hopkick, etc. You have tons of buttons that will beat them if they try to do anything against that on hit. The cool thing is on counter hit, that 1-4 follow-up is guaranteed. If you hold back turn on counter hit and then press 1-4, that's free. That counter hit state was +9. The follow-up is guaranteed for 50 damage and a potential wall splat. So that right away, I think, makes this worth it, especially waking up an opponent at the wall, right? They're getting up and they stand up into one of these things and get countered. Oh, Lord. It starts to hurt real bad. So Root of Evil is annoying because people that get hit by it are like, damn, I should have blocked it. And that kind of gets them off their edge a little bit, which is kind of the fun part. Counter hit rewards are huge, but even normal hit into back turn options are really, really good. So that covers your basic standing moves, what you do while you're just on your feet poking at them, what you got from crouching, a little bit of a different arsenal there, some cool options, and your low attacks. Your basic high, mid, low paradigm, how you poke them, use this mid, use this low, right? Keep their block guessing. So what happens in a three-dimensional game against characters that can move sideways? You need homing moves. You need moves that stop tracking. Because your sidestep is so powerful, this can actually come in handy offensively as well. When you sidestep them and use your own homing moves, keeps them pinned down. They won't be able to counterstep you or anything like that. They're not going to be able to outstep, you know, your offense if you keep them pinned with your homing moves. And in this case, Lili's homing moves are really good. Quarter circle forward 2-1. Do glide 2-1 starts it off. At the fastest possible way you can do it, this is 16 frames. Because the down, down, forward input, that takes frames, obviously. 16 is the fastest this move come out. So you can actually do it at, you know, 20 frames or whatever if you do it really slow. But if you do this quickly, that's a very fast homing move. 16 frames, and the fact that it's hit confirmable means it's mostly going to be safe. On block, you don't really need to ever let it loose with this. You have plenty of time to confirm the hit and let it go. You can delay it a little bit too long, but you should have enough time to see it pop and then knock them down. So fundamentally safe on block, 16 frame homing move with knockdown. That's really good. Otherwise, you could do glide 3+4. This one is totally safe on block, and in fact, it is +6 in your favor on block. So that is absolutely fantastic. It crushes highs a little bit, but not as much as you would like. And at the end, it can kind of jump over some lows, but these aren't like the huge merits. The merits are the fact that this move can be done as fast as 14 frames. If you can just pop it out, you got a 14 frame homing move that's +6 on block, but it's a high. Anything they did, if they just did a down four or a duck jab or whatever in the middle of your offense, that could miss entirely. So that's its only drawback. But between the two of them, quarter circle 2-1 being a hit confirmable mid, and quarter circle 3+4 being a frame trap high, you're covered. Your homing moves are really, really covered. Those are excellent, excellent overall tools. Your basic homing move in forward 3 kind of sucks. This move is basically garbage outside of like 2 situations. One of those situations is like as a pressure trap we're going to talk about later. When you have them in this kind of situation, forward 3 is kind of decent. And at the wall. An opponent standing up at the wall, this is pretty good because they can't outspace this move. Otherwise, this move gets outspaced constantly. It's too short. It's a basic one-button homing move, so if that's what you're comfortable with, you can kind of do it. But it's 20 frames and it's got no range. The last patch made this better on block. If they block this now, it's only -3, which lets Lili sidestep. And as we talked about, is such a good thing. But that's kind of like an admission of failure, right? My only goal in doing this move is to get it blocked so I can sidestep out of there quicker. You've probably got something better you could do right there. So the quarter circle moves, I think, are superior homing moves. Forward 3 is there just to kind of, you know, be simpler option. If you don't want to do quarter circles in time, or you're just simply not good at it, forward 3 is there to cover the gap. It's just not great. Forward 1+2 is an interesting animal. Its frame data on the box will say 18 frames, but it's much longer than that. You can see how she takes this little half step before the move comes out. It's the computer doesn't like measure that timing. This move is actually probably closer to 25, maybe 30 frames because of that wind up. It's really weird. I don't know how to fit this into my moveset, to be honest. I'm just mentioning it because it is a homing move. It's safe on block, and it knocks you down. And you can charge it up, and it turns unblockable, but by itself, I don't know how to use this. It doesn't seem like it's outclassed by other homing moves. It doesn't seem like it has its own job. Kind of tough to describe that one, to be honest, but it's there. The last 2 homing moves are down back 3 and down back 4. These are garbage. Don't do them. They're homing, but they're not worth the risk. You have plenty of other options. Your quarter circles are the king and queen, so to speak, of your homing moves. Just leave it at that. So that's side-to-side coverage. That's how you keep your opponent from out-sidestepping you, because sidestepping is one of your strengths. You'd be better off to keep them from stepping so you can move circles around them. So let's talk about forward and backwards. Let's talk about when you're at long range, since we've determined being close range is not a strength of the character. If you're out here, what changes? What makes Lili so much better than when she was up close? And the answer is just a couple of other moves that are on the table now that have such a good utility, they're absolutely worth building a character around. In addition to that, just the overall flexibility of being out here and being able to sidestep more cleanly, or backdash, or do glide to get in if you want, for example. So out here at range 2, your quarter circle 2-1, your homing moves, and your quarter circle 3+4, these are excellent tools, even out here at range 2. They have good range, because even if you do them at their instantaneous speed, they still have a quarter circle. You know, they still have the do glide in them. So that actually still works from like range 2 and then some. Quarter circle moves are still very good. They're go-to homing moves left and right, and they're really good moves out at range as well. On top of that, you also want to consider quarter circle 1-2. As we talked about this in the do glide section, this move is mostly downs and just a few ups, but it's there, right? If an opponent is out here, you can kind of find a spot to stick that in every so often. It's a natural combo, and you could play the cancel game counter hit stuff if you want to, but oh, you're putting a lot of risk out there just to kind of maybe catch them once in a while with that. I think you're better off to stick to 2-1, but quarter circle 1-2 is on the table because it also has a fantastic range that if they're out here thinking they're safe or they're about to make a move on you, that can catch them real quick. So it is worth noting for that one extra positive is its fast range. Also out here you have 3. 3 is an interesting little number because of its range being so good. It has extensions. You have this 3-2-3, just going to get you in trouble because they'll duck that. 3-2 and do glide is not great, but it's there. 3-1 is a wall bouncing attack. It's a mid this time that's unsafe on block, but again, everything has its place. You know, they start ducking this, you do the mid, and it gets hit by that. But 3 by itself leaves Lili automatically back turned. What's interesting is this move on block into back turned is -11, which is bad news. Even out at range, if they happen to block it, you're maybe okay if you can turn around quickly and get out of there, or maybe duck and do that. You can escape that, but on hit, this isn't too bad. If this move hits them, Lili's like -2, -3 at back turned. And that doesn't sound great either, but it is good enough. Considering this string is 8 frames, if Lili hits you at the tip, at the very tip of this, that'll still work. She might have the bit of the advantage there. So keep in mind you're negative, but you're not that negative that you have to just completely give up your turn. If you catch them at the tip with this, if they're running at you, and you stuff them with one of these things, you do have some options out of back turned. And if not, you can always just retreat and get out of there. So 3 does add some spice to the mixture because now they can get stuffed at this range. And if they just get caught by this, all of a sudden, okay, back turn, shit, what do I do? Too late, you know? A quick little decision they have to make. Okay, all of a sudden back to, ooh, easy computer. A quick little poke into back turn, what comes next, right? That can be a little jarring sometimes. And then again, if they, you know, if they're not super paying attention, you can go for do glide mix-ups or whatever. So the whole kit combined, 3 into back turned, 3-1 wall bounce, and 3-2 into do glide. That combined is on the table now at this range and has some interesting uses. It's not the best yet, but it does show you what the character is also capable of when you keep things fresh and your opponent is not able to predict what you do. The real crown jewel out here, though, has always been forward 4. This move has just fantastic range, safe on block mid, and knocks down. But now as of the current patch, you get a whole combo off of this move. So a counter hit launcher off of this safe knockdown mid with superior range. That lets Lili dominate this distance. Out here, this is Lili Town. If you come anywhere in it, you're catching one of these to the teeth. And if you happen to be doing something at that same point in time, I'm going to knock out the rest of your teeth. That counter hit combo is just nasty. You get tons and tons of reward from this move now. The only problem is it doesn't track. If they kind of run up to you and then like sidestep or whatever, this can miss. It has no tracking. So I feel like this is a bit more keep out than it is offense. You don't want to like come at them and then throw this out. Because if they feel like you're approaching, right, what are they doing? They're backdashing, they're sidestep, you know, they're doing this. So that will miss if that's the case. This is better for them coming at you in a straight line because of its lack of tracking. And I think that's good. That's all it needs to be. You can get up close and then use this, but if they happen to sidestep, you're in trouble. But if not, it's okay, right? It's not like they can sidestep it on reaction. The risk just exists if they were moving laterally, you could get blown up. But that's not why you pick this character. You don't live your life thinking about what might be when you pick this character. You do cool stuff and you dance and float and step around and you do wildly different and interesting things that your opponent cannot predict. That's why you pick this character. And this is a huge component of the toolbox now. 17 frames isn't the fastest, but it is her fastest counter hit application. So this is a huge bonus to have now that she didn't have before. Forward 4 at this range 2 is ultra deadly. Forward 3+4 is this missile kick, which has always been kind of cool. It's not fast. It's not slow necessarily either. At 19 frames, it's only a teeny bit slower than this, but it jumps over lows. She's completely airborne. It's safe on block. It feels like it's plus sometimes, you know, that huge amount of hits, but it's not. It's just good enough to kind of occasionally throw out there and make them think about, is that move plus? It feels like I'm in a huge amount of stun. Maybe it's not. Forward 3+4 is kind of interesting. It's not like exceptional in any way, but it's just there to keep doing something different. You don't want to do this every time and every time. You have this to just throw out once in a while to keep it fresh. And the last thing at this range that really fits the bill more than anything else is Lili's hopkick. Lili's hopkick is actually really good out here as soon as they come at you. As soon as they come at you, you can interrupt with this hopkick because it's got some evasion frames and it's likely to stuff whatever they do. Not to mention if you're out here and you have a much better potential for whiffs. If you're out here and you backdash and you sidestep, you should be able to avoid their attacks much more easily. Up close, there's a lot of stuff that'll catch you, right? Straight elbows and knees will catch you up close. But out here, your sidestep is going to be much more effective. So you just kind of do your little thing. You're dancing around out here. These whiff punishes with hopkick are very, very good at this range. Any one tiny little thing comes up just short, you tag them with this. And even if it doesn't, even if they're coming at you at like this distance, this hopkick is good at stuffing them because it's got some evasion built into it. Seems like she just kind of goes under stuff. It's not Claudio by any means, but it's an above average hopkick with good range and a good hitbox. So out at further ranges, like Kazumi's hopkick is like here, right? Lili's is good here still for the same purpose and more. So it's definitely worth mentioning in long range toolkits. This is a semi-long range tool for the most part. So those are your new options when you're out at range. It doesn't sound like much, but they're really good. Having your quarter circle moves back you up is excellent. Forward 4 owns this territory now. This is Lili Town, you stay out of it. And then like the kick missile is kind of interesting, hop kick punish and all that stuff. If you want to get back in, if you're out here and you want to get back in against the passive opponent and keep attacking them, it's kind of a similar combination of stuff we've already talked about, led by your quarter circle moves. Quarter circle 2-1 and quarter circle 3+4. They're excellent at this. You want to get in, you do this. And if it gets blocked, you just do nothing, right? Or you can do this. And if it gets blocked, they're at +6 and you continue your offense. So right away, you have this to cover the ground. Now you're +6 and you can run offense from there just like that. In a heartbeat, it's your turn. You got right back in on them so fast. So these are also the moves that kind of lead the way when it comes to being at range. Not only to stay out here at range and play keep away, but to get back in. These moves are really good at doing that. Quarter circle 3+4 and 2-1 with his hit confirm are excellent. Down forward 3+4 is now something to consider to get back in. This is an interesting little number. It's got the good range, right? She can hit you from way downtown with this thing. It's a natural launcher. She gets a combo from that. And it's not safe on block. The fastest you could turn around is still -10. This is -4 on block, and it takes you 6 frames to turn around. So even if you do it at your fastest, you can still get jab punished in the back, which is dangerous for a lot of characters. But it's not the end of the world, right? They had to be ready to do it immediately, and sometimes they don't want to do that. Sometimes people want to duck jab because they're scared of what you might do on block, not realizing they actually do have a clean punish here. They might want to duck jab or hop kick you. So when you do this move, you can actually, you know, use it against them and do your hop kick or do your down 4 poke and stuff like that. So you can turn what should be a punish situation into a quick little mix-up for you if they're not keen on it. If you do this and somebody immediately 1-1-2s you in the back, you should start being careful from now on, you know what I mean? That's a person that knows this -10 is going to get confirmed. There's nothing you can do about it. Fastest you can block is technically 11, so if they know that, stay away. Otherwise, this is a really good approach tool. This is cool because if they don't do anything against you, you got this down poke into your offense. If they got hit by it, it's a combo. You've got jabs, you've got all kinds of stuff from your back turn. So it's technically a really good back turn setup if it weren't for the fact that it's -10 when it starts. So an opponent doesn't know that, it actually is a really good back turn setup. And like I said, if it got hit, combo time. And the last tool for getting back in is also a crown jewel now, because forward 3 is a natural launcher. This move used to just lead into do glide situations and stuff like that. Now it's a launcher on hit. You can still do glide stuff, but forward 3 has a ton of options now, because this also has downtown range. This is range 3 and then some. No tracking, 0 tracking. So if you got, again, a passive opponent that's out here just, you know, sidestepping and dancing, you're going to have a hard time catching them with this. But if you got an opponent right where you want them and you're ready to get back in, this can jump right on them quickly. By itself, you still get a combo from it, but it's -12 on block. So since we were already doing this in the first place, every time this gets blocked, you just go into do glide and then, you know, cancel out of it with a sidestep or whatever. You can still do that here, even on hit. You can see that the move hits and then still catch them for your combo in that case. It still works. You can just sidestep immediately like you're going to. You're holding forward to do glide regardless, no matter what. You're holding forward to do glide. If you see it hit, you can tap up immediately and go for your combo like I'm doing here. It's a little hard. To be honest, it's a little tricky. There's one. Right? You can always do that. And if it gets blocked, you just sidestep anyway, right? You can do whatever you want there. So forward 3 can still be made safe thanks to your do glide cancels. And being a natural launcher, whew, that's a lot of potential now. To come back in flying with this frame trap into whatever offense, or come back in with this potential launcher now, really, really good stuff. So that's pretty much all you need if you want to get back in. There's no point in doing anything else. This is more keep out. This is more get in. Quarter circle 2-1 and quarter circle 3-4, they do both, right? I mean, this has enough pushback. You can still keep people away from you. You could use this to get in because you're still in range. Even with the pushback, you're still in range of running your offense. Just be careful. That little bit of pushback, stuff like this, your stubby moves we talked about, don't always reach. So be warned there. Getting back in is good, right? To mix them up and run pressure or whatever. But keep in mind, when you do get in, you've entered your weak territory where moves like this and moves like this are prone to missing. Always keep that in mind. So that's the basic neutral toolkit. Your standing arsenal of pokes, your non-magical 4, your really interesting array of safe mids with cool properties that just have no tracking. And they have no range, whatever it might be. Those are excellent moves, but they tell you being up close is a situational thing. You do this move once and you get out. You cannot abuse this. You're using borrowed money when you're up close. You might have one of these get you something cool, but that's all you got. Get out of there and do something else. Your crouching moves into your while standing state, these are really good. This while standing 4, whew, it's indescribable how good this while standing 4 is, right? Compared to like a character that doesn't have a good rangy one, or you know what I mean, ones that have crappy hitboxes, this is a great while standing 4. Also on a full crouch has this counterpart, this little mid with its counter hit knockdown, and this low with a counter hit launch. Those can come in really handy if you have an opponent that's, you know, prone to making bad decisions. Your crouch game is actually kind of decent now. Thanks to the current patch, this is low crushing high crushing properties, and this is counter hit. These two are definitely a legitimate situation now. Your arsenal of lows is also better. Down 3 has excellent range, but not a ton of advantage. Now your down 1-2 has supreme advantage at the cost of no range and no tracking, right? So it's one or the other with this character. You got to familiarize yourself with both situations and what works best. Down 1-2 offensively is super duper good now. Not to mention back turned, your down 4 is really good. If you're just doing it, you're canceling, you're spinning around, your back turned down 4 is excellent. And Root of Evil is good and also bad, right? They can block this and blow you up, but other than that, this is a really good move to just annoy the piss out of them. Every time someone gets hit by that, like, oh, I hate that move, right? You want to do that. You want that as much as you can. You want people saying, man, I hate getting hit by that, and then do it again. Right? Make sure they'll do something about it. And eventually they start to realize, okay, she's going to do this every time she's out at range. You do this instead, right? Hit him with the mid. That's what it's about. So those are all your low attacks. Your homing moves, your do glide 2-1, and your do glide 3+4. They cover all your bases you need for homing. They also cover most of your bases for being outside at range 2 and getting back in to attack your opponent from deeper ranges. Those quarter circle moves cover all of that. In addition to that, if you're out here a little bit, forward 4 comes into play really, really well. Your whiff punishing skills with hopkick can really shine out here as well. Your round off as a launcher can start to work at this range, and forward 3, the ultimate get-in tool. Now this is now the ultimate get-in tool. It's a launcher on hit, it can be safe on block, you get continued pressure sometimes, all that stuff. So that's pretty much everything you have in your standing neutral game. And what I mean by standing neutral is nothing has happened yet, right? You're just looking at each other, you're not getting pressured, you're doing moves and you're moving around, you're sticky, you're floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, just like you're supposed to. You're not getting up off the ground. We're talking about just plain neutral. So other than that, offense can come out of several places, right? Everything in this game is technically a mix-up. Am I going to go low? Am I going to go mid? That's a mix-up right there. Standing still doing nothing is a mix-up, because I could do this and I could do this, and you wouldn't have any clue to know. However, because Lili doesn't have mix-ups built into strings outside of this like 1-2-3, 1-2-4 situation, she's not a strong mix-up character, but she does have them. And so there are requirements to be able to do stuff like this. So the first thing I want to look at is a really good pressure situation for Lili. And there's two major ways to get to it. And that is forward 1+2. When this hits your opponent, this is +3, maybe 4. 3. Okay, that's what I thought. This is +3 and forces your opponent to crouch. You see the little symbol there? You can obviously see she's crouching. So this move on hit, +3, opponent crouch. This move on block, down forward 3, does the same thing. +3, the opponent is forced into crouch. So this is a very good situation for Lili all around. Pretty much every time you have them knocked down and you go for Oki, you want that. You want to drop this right on their head, exactly like Mishima players do with their forward 4. They put that heel kick right on the top of your melon and you're trapped again. That's what this move does for Lili. Even on block. You see on hit is +8. On block, still +3. So both these result in the same thing. +3 frames for you, and they are crouching. So you want this as much as you can. This is great for wake up. And then when you're up close, if you go for this move, and you happen to catch people with it, okay, cool. I just got that hit. Let me go for this pressure situation. So with the opponent in that situation, there's basically 4 things that can happen. They don't respect the frame trap, and they try to counterattack you. Hooray. They do respect the frame trap, and they just stay there and block like they're supposed to. Also good. They could try to be clever and stay crouched and maybe try to avoid a jab or something real quick, right? Let's say you want to do frame trap and then jab them. They could try to duck, right? And think they're going to be clever about it. Okay. Or they sidestep. Even if you're forced into a crouch, you can always sidestep up. So they might want to try to sidewalk out of the mix-up entirely. So out of those 4 things, if they want to challenge with a button, that's usually good, right? Because that means they're going to get counter hit. I'm going to be faster than you when I have those 3 frames. But she doesn't have a magic 4 like Kazumi, or a 1-2-1 string like Dragunov. Look at Brian and Kunimitsu. That 1-2-4 is all guaranteed on a counter hit, knocked down, great stuff. Lili doesn't have anything like that. If you look at the math, they're forced into crouch, so their fastest move is their while standing 4 at 11 frames. Obviously, Lei and Lee can do this at 10, so that changes it even worse for Lili. But most characters at 11 frame while standing 4, plus the 3 frame disadvantage. That means their fastest attack is now 14, okay? If I put them into this situation, their while standing 4 is now basically 14 frames. So it means anything I do that's 13 or faster will beat them outright. Well, I don't have anything that counter hits faster than 13. The closest thing is this, which is 14. I would get this counter hit, but it would trade. And so I wouldn't, I'll take damage too. So that's out. So at 13 or faster, what do you have? Your 1-2 strings, these aren't even guaranteed on counter hit. Your 12 frame moves are unsafe. You don't want to just throw those out there for pressure. But at 13, you have this little gem that we covered in the punishment tools of back to 1. Now, what's interesting about this, even if it were a counter hit, you still don't get your 3rd hit guaranteed. Lili is the most divergent character in the cast when it comes to this stuff. How many characters have a 3rd hit that is guaranteed on counter hit, or when it counter hits by itself has a screw attack? She has none of that stuff. She has no counter hit properties in like any of her strings. So back 2-1, both, nothing on counter hit. So you're even throwing that out the window. The reason we're going to talk about this is because it's 13 frames. If they did it while standing 4, this would hit them guaranteed. They would always lose to this. So what's worth mentioning here is because you could do this and go into do glide, or you could go into back turn. And since we're only talking about the situation where they press buttons, we know this is going to hit. On blocks, a slightly different story, but one case at a time. If they're going to press a button and you do this, they get hit by this and you're +7. So you can go into back turn +7, which is just feast territory. Anything you do will beat them no matter what. They try to do anything and they get messed up. You go for low pokes, you go for your mid counter hit launchers, you go for the big boy, whatever it is. It's anything you want when you do back 2-1 into back turn on hit. Do glide is the same. Back 2-1 forward into do glide with +7 is really good. You can do kind of anything you want here. You could go for the low if you wanted to. You could go for another frame trap, etc., etc. The +7 you get from this move guaranteeing to hit them is really, really good. So that's the best option in my opinion for Lili when it comes to beating out their buttons. With the lack of a magic 4 or anything faster than that, this is all the best you get. Right? Other characters at 13 frames, if they knew a counter hit was coming, they could do dirty stuff. Lili doesn't have that. Right? Just look at King and Armor King could just do a back 1. Steve could do a back 1 and boom. combo, right? Lili doesn't have that. So this is what you got. You got utility. You got a move that you know you can hit them with that leads you to more interesting, tricky stuff. Or you can do back 2-1 and do glide and sidestep, cancel, whatever you want. Being flexible and being tricky is the name of the game. So this is a good situation for her to do that. This is unfortunate, that's all that she gets. Nothing really truly guaranteed, just a little bit more mix-up power. So if they don't respect your frame trap and they just block, they just stand there and block, this is also really good, right? You can do whatever you want in that case. If you know they're not going to retaliate, do it again. Trap them again. Keep doing it. They're just going to stay paralyzed. If you know they're not going to do anything, you could go for low pokes. You could do down ones. You could do for jab straight. Whatever you want to do. Back one into this offense. Do this again, right? You can do anything you want. This is probably one of the best situations when you know they aren't going to do anything at a disadvantage, right? If you know they're going to just stand there and chill and take this, the C is yours. You can do anything you want at this point. Run whatever offense you feel like. Sidestep. Try to bait them out of there. You know what I mean? Do whatever you want. Hesitate for a second. Then sidestep, you know? Anything you can think of is good here. This lets you set up moves like that are normally way too slow to get away with up close. You could do all kinds of things. You could do this. Whatever you think of if you know they're going to stay there. If you think they might duck, if you think they're clever to stay and crouch and duck some jabs, just make sure whatever your heart desires is a mid. Quarter circle 2-1, another example here, right? Great option, mid, and you can confirm that hit. If they think they're going to be clever by ducking, just stick to mid. They're not going to challenge you, but they're going to try to duck and maybe take a little advantage that way, right? Just standing there blocking, they get nothing. They want to try to be proactive and maybe duck some highs. Just don't do highs there, right? So whenever you do this frame trap, just don't do a high afterward. That's all I can say about this. Make sure whatever you do next is a mid. That covers that base entirely. And the last thing, if they're going to be clever and try to sidestep out of the mix-up altogether, you guessed it. Quarter circle 2-1 covers that base as well. Quarter circle 2-1, confirm it. Same with the 3+4, and they're right back into an even heavier frame trap this time at -6. The hits keep on coming when it comes to these 2 quarter circle moves. They are just excellent all around. They cover so many utilities, even in this up close pressure situation. These moves are still really good. The backup alternative here is forward 3, as we mentioned. This is one of the cases where it's good. Because you have them frame trapped right here, forward 3 is still in that range. That's the only reason I mention it here, is because that will cover the homing as well. And if they happen to press a really, really slow button, like a really slow button, this could counter hit them. This is a counter hit launcher, but at 20 frames, they needed to press the slowest button ever for that to work. So it's really more homing than anything else. And it's easier to do, technically, than it is to do quarter circle 2-1 sometimes. So it's only effective up close, and since you are up close, this is worth a mention. So that's a pretty deep situation, right? That's worth looking at a lot, because there's micro versions of that everywhere. This is similar. This is +3. It just doesn't come with the crouch. Other than that, the situation is the same. Are they going to respect it? Do whatever they want. Are they not going to respect it? Stuff them with whatever counter hit tools you have. Lili just doesn't have good counter hit tools. So if the person knows that, they might be prone to challenging buttons. Just make sure you're ready for that and stick out quicker moves or punch parry, you know, anything like that. So this is just a particularly good one, because anytime you have Oki, you're going to hit him with this most of the time. So you better learn what to do out of this situation. If they go for buttons, you use this and set them up again. If they go for nothing, repeat, go for lows, homing, whatever it might be. So when it comes to other mix-ups that Lili can get on offense, because we said there's not really strings that can do it, she requires a setup. So that was a good setup that comes from Oki. More often than not. You can do this normally, right? You can just kind of run up and do that to him. It'll work. Just don't over-rely on his move. Again, no range, no tracking. But this is a good one that's going to occur a lot, especially if you're throwing this thing out all day up close. Every time you catch them with that, huge pressure opportunity. One of her other ways to do some mixing up is back 1. We talked about in the do glide section that any of the moves that transition into do glide on block are very bad. You can see how back 2-1 is -4. They're all bad on block, except for back 1 into do glide. This is actually +1. That's what makes this the only one that you can just kind of run offense from. If they're standing there blocking, doing nothing, you do back 1 and do glide, you got some potential here, but it's not great. It's not perfect, and it's not airtight. So there are things they can do to beat you here. So I kind of want to go over this real quick. This general situation. So back 1 into do glide. Let's look at what happens here. Back 1 into 1-2. This move loses the 13 frames. If you do this as fast as you can, anything they do in between is 13 frames beats that, straight up. If they went for a jab, however, if they do a jab right away here, this will high crush it for just an instant. For 10 or 11 frames, this will beat jabs. After that, it loses, right? It loses the jabs for frames 12 and 13, and it loses to everything after that. So it is possible if you have an opponent that's jab happy, every time you do this, they want to jab, that'll beat them. That'll go under their jab and beat them. Exceptions to this are Feng. If Feng does back one, this will hit. Even though it's a high, that's got a hitbox that beats this high crush. This is not a tech crouch. It just has a low hitbox that it goes under almost every normal jab in the game. That's all. This is not a crouching state, but it just happens to avoid most jabs. Anyway, this loses to 13 frames. That's what I want to talk about, is why these things lose. Back one into 1-2. Loses to anything 13 or faster. Back one into 2-1. This loses to all 12 frame moves. Back one into 3+4. This move is so fast, we use it all the time. Well, guess what? It still loses to 10 frame jabs. A straight up jab beats this move, period. Okay, now we're losing everything, right? Let's look at this full crouch slide. Technically not a do glide move, but you can access it like this. This beats your jabs now. It didn't used to. Jab used to also beat this. So now this does beat jabs, but it loses to, and a hop kick will beat this straight up. Lots of things will still beat this. It just goes under jabs for a brief moment. How about while standing 3? Yep, loses to everything that's 14 and faster. And the great while standing 4. Okay, let's do the math here, right? +1 and my 11 frame while standing 4, that's perfect. 10 frame jab, that should trade, right? At the best, the trade, perfect. Nope, not the case. They changed this voluntarily from the last game. This gap now loses to everything that's 12 and faster, which is kind of crazy. I guess they felt that was too good. At best, your opponent could jab this transition and they would trade. Now they can do 13 moves and trade with you and then beat you straight up. That was such a huge, silly nerf in my opinion, but it does keep Lili from getting away with this all day. Now Lili's have to think about it. So what do we learn here? 10 frame jab beats everything, right? The only thing it doesn't beat is this, because it's a high and it goes under it. Okay, well what about a 10 frame duck jab? And the short answer is yes, that beats everything. Everything you do, back one into do glide, everything that comes to your little fancy loses to duck jab. So then you think, okay, well then how's this even a mix-up? Why would I ever want to do anything here? Because what did we say in the beginning is the strength of this character? Sidestep. Sidestep. If you know they're going to go for that duck jab to beat your mix-up here, you just go to do glide and you sidestep. You sidestep and you hop kick and it beats that duck jab right to the punch. It's hard to call this reliable, because let's say if they do anything else, right? Let's say if it's a Negan and they do like 1-2-2 or 1-2-4 to try to beat your mix up here. All right, you can do this and you can sidestep there, but the second and third hit of their string are going to hit Marduk 1-2 strings and shit like that. Even if you sidestep, if you set them up for the jab and you sidestep, the rest of their string will make contact with you. They'll turn around and they will track you. So really the duck jab is the one that you want them to do so you can hop kick it. Other than that, sidestepping can beat their follow-up, but it can also get you hit as well. So side walking, I think, is a little bit better maybe. You go into do glide and you start side walking. Because if they did a string right there, you could catch their back easily. That's the best thing that could happen to you. So otherwise, this isn't much of a mix-up because they can proactively beat it out. Even at +1, they still win with a jab or a duck jab. You have to bait that jab out and then try to beat it yourself with your sidestep. The other mix-up situation I want to talk about, which is more of a conventional forced mix-up for them, is back turned. Couple ways to achieve this state, as we talked about in that first section. Back 2-1 is going to be one of your most practical ones. Using this as a 13 frame punish into back turned. We talked about this pressure situation. If they go for a button, you use this and you can go back turned. Forward 4 is also another good way to do it. I'm going to turn blocking off again so don't... No, that's fine. Blocking is fine. But anyway, forward 4, when it hits them and you go into back turn, you're +4. These are good situations. Even if you do, if back 2-1 gets blocked and you go into back turn, -4 is not too bad. That will still beat jabs. Down forward still beat any jabs they do. So would, the big sweep. That'll still beat their jab. Not everything, right? -4 isn't great, but on hit, If this is +7, the world is yours. You can do whatever you want to. This on hit, +4, you can do whatever you want to. So the key mix-up out of back turned is basically a mid versus low situation again. 1+2, a safe mid launcher, right? You would just go for this every time, and if it hits, hooray. Other than that, there's very little drawbacks. Just go for this all day. Safe mid launcher is really good stuff. If they try to duck jab you, however, sometimes this could lose. At 13 frames, if you're -4, they could duck jab and beat this, right? So, okay, what if they duck jab? Remember, you have a hop kick. You have a back turned hop kick that would beat duck jabs. This is only 9 frames. Even at -4, this still wins. So you have a safe mid launcher in 1+2. You have an unsafe mid launcher in up +4 that beats lows. So that covers a great variety of their counter options right away. If you think they're a duck jabby player, just hop kick them. And if they're not, then you can just go for the safe version and you go for the harder mix-up. Back turn 2 risks almost nothing. This move is safe on block. It's a mid. And if they got counter hit in here, you get a launcher that way. So you don't really have to risk anything, and you might get rewarded with a combo if they got antsy here. So those are your mid options. Pretty cool. The other mid option is this 3+4. If they got counter hit, this is a slow move. It's only really good for if they try to do like a 1-1-2. If they did a high string and this ducks under that first high and it catches them in a counter hit in the middle of that string, great. Otherwise, this is a tough little nut to crack. It's going to be hard to hit people with that counter hit. And it's a little bit risky in the back. The first one by itself is -11. The ending is -10, still back turned. Remember, it takes 6 frames to turn around, so you can get bopped for doing this. So that's the mid that's the least practical in my opinion. Back turn 2 is the most practical, but if you want a launcher, you have a safe launcher and you have an unsafe launcher. Those are all just mids out of back turned. When you have the frame advantage, you can do whatever you want there. So let's look at your lows. Your lows basically consist of the practical one, a down 4, which does just no damage, but it's +3 on hit. So this +3 on hit right into more offense is really good stuff. You didn't have to leverage anything. You go for this and go right back into it. You use the back turn like, oh God, what's she going to do? I'm just going to poke and I'm going to go back to business, you know? Fake them out that way. Or you go for it all and do the big back turn down 3+4. This is big and dumb and slow, but again, beats highs. If they happen to jab, she has a lot of stuff here that's going to beat those highs. So that's the classic mix-up out of back turn. It's actually pretty good in my opinion. The lows are all or nothing, right? You could go for a huge all or nothing low or a basic poke, and it'll hit them low and go right back into neutral offense. That's a good tool in my opinion, because you could even hit them with this and, you know, sidestep. That's what she does, to stay flexible. Don't commit, stay flexible. If you're going to commit, it better be to something cool. That's the only rule that I have. It better be something worthwhile, and it better work, you know? And then other than that, tons of mids. Mid launchers, mid pokes, mid counter hits. Great mids out of back turn. All of this stuff is mostly safe, which is very cool. So back turn mix-ups are pretty good. It's just a situational thing for you to be able to get into it. Forward, forward, 4 is a good one. Back 2-1 as a punish or as an interrupt is also a good one. Some of like 3 we talked about at mid-range. If you're out here at range 2 and you catch them with that 3, this is still viable. Like I say, if this hits, you're only -2, -3. So you could do the math and see what's going to work, right? If you're -3 in this situation and you do 1+2, it trades with an enemy jab. But if you're -3 and you do this, you win. So you gotta kind of have to study the math and see what works there at a certain frame disadvantage. So this on block, you could even go for this and they wouldn't be able to beat it out. Kind of cool. And if you did think they're going to jab, that always beats jabs and makes you +3. So that's really, of all the crazy, flippy, bouncing, mix-up, acrobatic stuff she has, being able to go into a back turn, force mix-up, and just do it down 4 and get out of there is one of the most powerful tools. So I think that's offense in a very big nutshell. That's everything you have to stand up and move around and poke with, all your crouching moves, your lows, how to use homing, how to stay at range and fight, how to get back in, what are your advantages at range and disadvantages up close. We talked about mix-ups and how you can create them out of oki pressure, create them out of do glide and then faking out do glide, or using your back turn stance to get some really, really good mix-ups out there. So next up, let's talk about defense. So let's round up by looking at what you do on defense. Actually playing defense in this game is mostly just blocking, right? It's easy to block. mid-low mix-ups, you got to be aware of how to block. So obviously you want to get out of those if you can. All these things are ambiguous that are hard to block. You can't tell the difference. Try to avoid it if possible. Try to backdash. Try to sidestep. Get out of there. So the fact that Lili has such a great sidestep and can backdash pretty well, that's what she wants to do mostly when it comes to playing defense up close. You want to block things when you can and punish appropriately. She's got good block punishers. But if you can, bait them into attacking when you want to and then avoid it, whiff punishing is even better. So you really want to try to avoid as much as you can with this character. You want to stick and move, and you want to sidestep. You'd be surprised how much if you go for just the right situation, you get a good Lili sidestep on him, it opens him up big time. That's really what you want for the most part. A little bit further out at range, this can actually work better because you do have a better cleaner hitbox to sidestep. You don't get caught by as much random stuff when you're further away. So being able to move around and dance and dodge out here is even more powerful. This is really, really good stuff. And as we talked about, getting back in works on the same toolkit. So if you are out here and you're done playing defense, it's your turn to go back in. Getting back in with the same core moves. These two moves are so good. They just do everything for you. So let's take a look at core defense that goes beyond just not getting hit, right? That's the easiest thing in the game. You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So let's talk about what happens when you actually can't dodge most of the time. One thing you could do is counter hit fishing. If you know the opponent is attacking, coming at you, whatever it is, you fish for counter hits. You throw out things that, if they do happen to land, would result in a nice counter hit property for you. So chief among those is the new forward 4. This move works just wonders for that. You get the combo from it, safe on block, all of that. The only problem is if it doesn't track. If they're coming at you, right, they're doing this, and they sidestep to try to fake you out, you're going to get faked out. So be warned, your best keep out tool has no tracking. So if I know that you know that I know that you know, they could sidestep it, right? Forward 3 would cover that base, except it's way too short. You cannot defend yourself with forward 3. If you think the opponent's going to attack you and you want to try to throw something out there, this is not the answer. It's too slow, it's too short. Forward 4 is faster, it reaches much further, so don't worry about the tracking element of it. You could, however, do a down forward 3. If you could get it just right, so they want to stay a little bit, they're coming at you, but they don't want to get in close. They kind of want to just fish for an opportunity. Throwing out down forward 3 is a little bit better. It's got better range, same speed at about 19-20 frames. However, if this does land on their head, you get the nice pressure situation we talked about. You get the big frame trap. And if they did happen to get counter hit caught by it, right, you get your combo that way. So down forward 3, I think, is worth mentioning just because you might get the counter hit. And if you do happen to land this right on them in their approach, frame trap. So its rewards are definitely worth it. Even though it could also get sidestepped, it's worth a mention because you do get some cool stuff when this move does its job. Another thing to throw out to defend against counter hit would be this crouch dash 3. Technically, it's full crouch down forward 3, but you could do it as do glide. If you do glide 3 and just hold forward, this comes out. So you can actually do it kind of fast. You can do it instantly like that. Quarter circle 3 and hold the forward. You can get this. So that actually goes under some jabs pretty quick. This could, from far ranges, could actually catch people getting counter hit. It just takes the very tip. Just the very tip of this is all it takes to land your counter hit. Come on. There we go. So that did work. If you were way far out here and they're coming at you, you could surprise people with this every so often to get your counter hit that way. I think it's better than this, just all around. I think it's just a better move. This kind of sucks. The quarter circle, I think, is better. Just not by a lot, but I think it's worth mentioning that you could occasionally trip people with this guy coming in. Another option to defend yourself with is actually back turn 2. If you're out here, you could kind of, show your back sometimes and fake them out. Pretend like you're going to do some flippy shit on them and not. So when you're out here just trying to gauge your space, see what it is, going back turn and kind of baiting them in and hitting them with that can actually work pretty well. If you see my opening distance, right? If I'm out here, I'm still in range of attacks, right? But if I back off a little bit, this is a nice safe range out here. If I can turn away back turned, look how much that covers. That could actually bail you out. If you could lure them in with this thing and then throw out that covers really good range. So keep that in mind to just occasionally throw out some back turn, pretend you're vulnerable, and then tag them with 2. That is a legitimate option. The last self-defense thing worth mentioning would be forward 1+2. This is a quick get off me. 14 frames is decent enough. If you're, you know, you can't get away from them, they keep coming at you, throwing out one of these is pretty decent. This will catch a lot of things. Like if they're just doing like this kind of stuff and annoying you, give them one of those, because that counter hit is definitely worth your follow-up, your pressure, and stuff like that. So you don't need a combo every time from a counter hit. Counter hits are just about maximizing moves that get you something on counter hit in the appropriate situation when you're trying to stuff your opponent's attack. They're coming at you, and running away is not an option. You throw something out that gets you a better reward if you land it correctly. So forward 4 is the best. Couple little self-defense tricks at the very last minute, but forward 4 is really it. That's the one that you want more than anything. The slide is kind of a gimmick. The back turn is kind of a gimmick, but they're there. So let's say you still want to get out of there completely. Do you have moves that can get you out of trouble rather than having to rely on straight backdashing and sidestep? There are a couple moves that are actually built in and evasive that can do this. Back 3 and back 4 aren't too much more than a gimmick. All they do is this little hop. But they can go into do glide and kind of sneak right back in. So these are definitely worth mentioning, to just kind of hop to the side a little bit. You can kind of hop in circles. At any point, you can hold forward and go back in. And there's your frame trap, boom. So it is worth mentioning that, right? Look how quick that can all of a sudden turn. You're doing this crap and you think you're just playing around, you know, and then boom, +6. So those are there. Those are actually kind of cool for that, but it's mostly just showing off rather than being practical. As far as evasive attacks go, up forward 2 is designed to do just that. This covers an almost 90-degree spin. Look at the grid on the ground where I start this move, and look at where Asuka lands relative to me. See, she's actually 120 some degrees. I hit her with the 90-degree mark, and she flies even further inward. So this goes way out there to try to smack him in the rear. This avoids a ton of stuff to hit them and knock them down. It's only -10. Let's say if you're looking for other kind of evasion, like in general, you got Matterhorn. One of the riskiest moves there is, but this move is just evasive as hell. You can see it clearly goes under. She gets real low to the ground, goes under jabs. This will go under plenty of mids. And at the end, once she's up on one hand, this is actually airborne. This would actually beat high or beat lows toward the end of its animation. So it can start off beating some highs and mids, can end up beating some lows, and you get just a massive combo off of it if it lands. But just be warned, this is like the most launch punishable thing there is. That 88 damage sounds great, but man, this is like -27 on block. If you were wrong and it didn't evade at all, good night, nurse. Down 3+4, just like Asuka here, her back 3 is another good one. Super duper evasive, but if it doesn't work, you get punished super duper hard. Another cool evasion move worth mentioning is up 3+4. This does the opposite. She jumps up in the air to go over your shit and then lands back down. This is pretty cool all around, I think. Its only weakness is getting backdashed. If it misses, you're really vulnerable. If it catches at the tip and knocks him down, actually, it's kind of hard to find that little bit. There we go. Knocks him down on the ground, perfectly fine. If it gets blocked, you're still safe. You're only -6 from this. But if you land just right, you can still get a combo. You can do all kinds of stuff to them that way. So this is a safe launcher. It's just got a weird little gimmick to it. You need to jump over and need to land exactly on their head. So if that backfires, which anything can, right? You just got to be aware of that. So this is super evasive. This jumps over everything, right? She's way up in the air. And if she happens to land correctly, you get a whole combo. And if it lands on their face and they block, you're still safe. So that's actually kind of cool too. Moves that if you're relying on a move to evade their attack and hit them in return, you're asking a lot, right? You're asking the game to play itself. So the fact that these moves are actually that good at what they do is well above average. These are pretty good moves for that regard. This can actually take a lot of that guesswork out of some stuff as long as it's applied correctly. Next up, let's look at a couple things that'll just beat some high jabs. Basic, low profile stuff. Your quarter circles, guess what? They're here too. Quarter circle 1, 2 is really good at this. Quarter circle 3, 4, not as much. Quarter circle 2, 1, they're okay. Because they start with this roll dash, they will beat some jabs right away. And the 1, 2 extends that a little bit better. So if you're thinking, okay, I can just kind of beat out a jab with these, that'll work real well. And at a little bit of a distance here, this quarter circle 1, 2 is actually good for sticking right under some jabs. 3+4 is also decent at it, but not great. It actually doesn't. Once she does the move, it stops crushing jabs. So if you delay out the crouch dash, you can get it that way. Down back 3, this move beats jabs right away. She immediately ducks under highs and kicks you, get a counter hit launcher from it. And so does down back 3+4. This beats jabs, but These moves are just bad, honestly. I think they're just bad. If you want to beat a jab with a low, I think this is just better now. Stick to that one. These are honorable mentions. They're just on the list, but not great. Your quarter circle 3 slide, I think, is the best one, and your crouch dash stuff. So basically, anytime you're in crouch dash, because you're in crouch dash, it'll beat a jab. So keep these in mind if you need an opponent that's throwing out jabs and magic 4s and everything. Your crouch dash arsenal is pretty good for beating that. If you need to beat lows, you have up, forward, 4-3. Obviously, you have your hop kick to beat any lows, but that's a risk sometimes. You want to just throw that out because you think it might be a low. You got other things for that. Up, forward, 4-3 is a good option. If you're correct and it does hit, you get a wall bounce off of it and you get a whole combo that way. And it's hit confirmable, so you can just stop. If this gets blocked, you can just stop right there and not have to do anything. A smart opponent that does block this is going to sidestep the follow-up, so you don't want to just let this rip. That gets pretty easily sidestepped. So you could stop right here. And a new feature of this move is stop right here and going back turned. So you can actually kind of go a little bit of an offense here if you want. Cancel this into back turn, go for a poke, whatever it might be. Use this for some mix-up tools. So in order to, instead of just a basic wall bounce move, this actually has some utility. You can use this to beat lows, be a safe option to get into back turned, or bail out if you want to. Just go into back turn and then cancel out whatever. Fake them out. Keep it fresh and flexible. It's all you got to do. So up, forward, 4-3 is kind of cool for beating lows. Also, a new change has made up, forward, 3+4 a little bit better. This little number used to do that, but now it's natural combo. So natural combo for 33 damage is kind of cool. Beats lows cleanly. This is safe on block, but this is a high. So if they block this thing, they want to duck this high, right? Because you know now this is a good move. You're going to start doing this because it's cool. It's natural combo and it's damage. So on block, they want to start ducking that. Fortunately, this also has a mid, but that mid is Matterhorn. So your only way to back this up and keep them from ducking this little tiny poke is to go for a Matterhorn. It can work, right? If you're using this a lot, especially if they feel like, hey, every time I go for a down 4, he hits me with that. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to start ducking it. I'm just going to do nothing, and I'm going to block, and I'm going to duck this and punish him for it. Well, then, yeah, that's when you can do a Matterhorn, right? I know that you know that I know. So those are pretty cool moves for beating lows. On top of other stuff we've already mentioned, like the round-off flip, jumps over lows. Character actually has a lot of stuff. This will beat lows and highs sometimes. There's a lot of things in there, but those are definitely worth mentioning because they don't do anything else. Up, forward, 4-3 and up, forward, 3+4. They don't do anything else except beat lows. Nice little tool just to jump over lows and get some free hits in. Your other evasive kind of tools would be stuff that comes out of sidestep. You can do a sidestep 1+2. Avoid a bit of a jab and counterattack with that. Same with sidestep 3. Avoid an attack, knock him down, get free follow-ups that way. Nice chunk of damage off of that. Sidestep 3 is very underrated. If nothing else, because if you do get a clean sidestep, you can always just hop kick, but, you know, not always as simple. Sometimes they recover, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. You could do sidestep 3 to try to avoid their attack. You know, you're doing the dance, you're out here. You avoid them, go for 3. It's got good range and it's safe on block, so you can kind of just do this all day, not have to worry about it. Sidestep 3 is really good for evading an attack, counterattacking with your own with no risk involved. Not to mention the ability to go for Oki stuff from here too, right? The world is yours once you knocked them down. So kind of a cool set of evasive moves. Go under, go above, go to beside, all sorts of things Lili can do with her acrobatic nature. That's what I talk about being flexible the whole time. If you can do these different ways to get around your opponent's attacks, they're never going to know how to focus their attack to beat you if you keep finding a different way to avoid it or counterattack it, right? So let's say none of those are for you. Let's say you want to just go right through and hit them. Tekken 7 introduced Power Crush for just that reason. Let's start at the top. The fact that Lili had forward too. She was one of the few characters that has a Power Crush launcher. This is an armored move that when it hits, gives Lili a full combo. Most characters don't have this. Miguel, Negan, Zafina. It's probably about it. They have armored moves that launch in return. Consequently, these are launch punishable. This is -17 if they do happen to block it. If you just armored a jab and they recovered in time, you're getting launched for this. So it's an all or nothing gamble. If you think you got the read, you get a whole combo out of it, and if you're wrong, they get a whole combo. So to compromise, later on they added down 1+2. They brought back an old Lili move and made this a Power Crush. This is only -13. Does some damage, little 25 damage and a knockdown, but you're only risking 13 if you're wrong. So you have the both. You don't have to bet the whole farm on the Power Crush. However, in my opinion, if that's the read, right, if you think I'm okay, I'm in pressure here, and I know he's going to go for, I'm at the wall, like I'm trapped at the wall, and he's going to use homing crap. I have no other way out. Power crush is my way out. If that's what I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going for the launcher, right? If I make a good read, I want the maximum reward from that read. But if you think the opposite way, if you think, okay, I think this is the read, but if I'm wrong, I want to minimize risk, that's what you got this one for. You could do both. Personally, I think I'm going to go for it all, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. However, if I'm right, if I do go for this and I do down 1+2 and it does work, I'm kicking myself for not going for it all, you know? This is kind of the way I think about it sometimes. So if you want to go right through them, power crushes, Lili's got two really good ones. She's got a launcher and she's got one that you don't have to risk everything. And so your final way to just blow right through your opponent would be your rage art. If they're going to press a button against you and you got your rage, 3+4, your rage art, actually a really good one, to be honest. It seems like it's a generic mid, nothing special about it, but there's two things. Because it comes out of Narcissus, this move hits from downtown. Like at least 3.5 this move connects from. Superior range. How about out here? Can I go here? Oh man, huge range anyway. Fantastic range. Not to mention this avoids lows. The opening animation of this move, because it's Narcissus, jumps over lows. So if you're at a tiny little bit of health left and you're worried about getting tapped by a down 4, your rage art would beat that down 4 cleanly, keeping you alive. Not everybody has that. That's actually kind of a cool little perk, right? A duck jab would lose to this. It would go over it. So she could beat out a finishing blow in the form of a down 4 and still hit you with the rage art. So has two interesting properties. Cleanly beats lows instead of having to armor through them, and has fantastic range. Other than that, this crushes any other mid attack or whatever. Boom, combo, finish them that way. So that's the ultimate way to just blow right through their attack on defense. I don't need to play defense. I'm going to use my super move and hit you that way. It'll go right through, do my damage. But the other function of rage is a little bit different. Your rage art, or your rage drive, is a slightly different function. In Lili's case, this is a combo starter and a combo extender. The only thing it's really missing is combo functionality at the wall. A lot of rage drives, sometimes they spike the opponent hard into the ground and you get to stomp on them for free, so you can do that at the wall too. This doesn't have that. Lili's only extends a combo out in the open. Like it does that, and it kicks him into a second screw attack. So that can get you to the wall, but once you've done like a super long combo, this at the end of 9 hits, you're not going to be able to hit him anymore. She's going to punt them 40 feet away and you get nothing. So it is good to get you to the wall last minute, but I think Lili's got plenty of stuff that could probably do that. So as a combo extender, not great. As a wall, it has no purpose. So it's mostly as a combo beginner. Because this starts with the animation of down forward 3+4, this uses the round off. This beats lows completely, goes right over them. Plus on block a ton, like most rage drives are. This is +9. Jail, so they can't duck that. And on normal hit, she gets a combo. So what's cool about this is not every rage drive that causes a screw attack gets you 2. If you look at like Fakim Ram or Ling or Shaheen, I think maybe is like that, their rage drive causes a screw attack just like this, but that uses it up. You do not get a second one. So look what happens. I still get another screw attack, even though my rage drive used one. It doesn't count as your screw attack. So you actually get to do this, and you can do a full combo on top of that, your whole screw attack and everything. So it's basically just adding 20 plus damage onto your normal combo structure, coming out of a low crushing, awesome range, safe mid. So that's kind of like your final option to use up your last resources. This isn't quite the same as power crushing through them, but defensively, this is a nice tool to jump over lows, spend your final life's resources to try to make the comeback. Your rage drive is actually a really good one. A combo starter that beats lows. And if nothing else, you get the frame trap, right? You get, the pressure and the options that come from there. So as a final resort, if you don't want to use your whole super that way, you want to go a little bit more finesse, a little bit more flexible, your rage drive is the answer to that. So I think that's everything defensively as far as the toolkit goes. Playing defense is the hard part of this game. Knowing what your opponent might do, what they can possibly do, and how to prepare for it, and then how to react when something different happens, that can take years of experience to figure out. So what we covered here was just what your options are based on what you think they might do, right? You have counter hit moves, things you throw out if you think they're going to attack, like a keep out set of moves. that you might get some cool rewards if you were right. We had moves that were evasive that can get you out of the way and stay safe, or hit them all at once. You know, jump over them, land on their head, fly out to the side, pop them back in the rear, whatever it might be. Evasive moves that can kind of flip the tables in an instant. Power crushes do the same thing. All of a sudden, you're getting pressured, and now the tables have turned. You're back on offense, or you get a whole launch out of the situation, which is what your Rage Art does. Your Rage Art can steal that last turn in a heartbeat and win the round for you. Lili's Rage Drive is a little bit of everything. It can be evasive. It can stuff people's approach. It can steal around at the very end. It's kind of like an encapsulation of everything she does. A lot of flexibility, lots of different ways to use the same move in different situations, which is what I think this character is about. So she's not full of mix-ups, even though you might think she's constantly hitting you low and sweeping and jumping and flipping. It's not mix-ups. It's more mobility. It's more flexibility. It's staying out of patterns. It's staying away from being predictable so your opponent knows you're going to do. If every time you do round off and you do down 4, they're going to catch that the second time, and they're going to, they're going to low parry it this time. So you got to stay fresh with what you do. You stay flexible. Don't ever do that again. Wait 2 more rounds before you do that. Start doing forward 3 instead. Do glide cancel. Mix it up. Do something different. Lily's flexibility is excellent. So what that does is gives you a character that's pretty technical overall. You got to learn how to do all of these things, and you got to learn how to apply them in the right situations. And then the damage is good. The results are really good. Lili just comes up short when it's in the up close pit bull department. She loses punch counter hit battles up close. So just don't engage in those. Use your amazing sidestep to get away from those, back up, evade something or whatever, and then play the game from a little bit safer distance. Decide to go in at the right opportunity. Otherwise, just stay out there, floating around. You float like the butterfly, and then you'll be cool. Everything is fine. When you're a butterfly, nothing's going to catch you. And then when you see that opportunity is right, they come flying at you. They're, all right, I'm going to go get them. You tag them with that forward 4 counter hit or whatever. You sting them like the bee. That's really what it's about. It's the best way to describe the character is to stay mobile, stay flexible, and hit them back when you catch those mistakes. Because she can be frustrating. Because she's hard to predict. Because her movements are erratic. Because she has lots of really different looking things, it gets frustrating. So if you could keep it together and stay clean and technical, your opponent gets frustrated, they will make the mistake first, and you feast on those. Damage gets really good when you start getting some counter hits and you get them to the wall and your Oki game kicks in. There's lots of dirty stuff Lili can do. She just needs to kind of get an opening first. She needs to get that one jab before she follows up with everything else. So hopefully this either helps beginning players get used to Lili, or advanced players, maybe something you didn't know, and it can help even beat Lili. A lot of these things are talking about Lili's weaknesses, which as an enemy Lili player, you could actually exploit. Oh, every time she does that back 1 shit, duck jab, right? You can beat her that way. So a smart Lili player knows she can bait the duck jab, etc., but there's a lot of things in here that I bet you didn't know you could do to her. Things you were letting her get away with, now you realize you actually can. Like the round off, for example. The fact that this can technically get jab punished no matter what, a lot of people don't know that. So hopefully that'll shed some light on it. Beginning player, advanced player, anywhere in between, helping out a little bit of information is the goal here. Don't forget to check out the combo video, link down below. There are timestamps so you can go back and check out whatever you need. There's also a playlist of little cut up, smaller video segments if that helps you organize stuff better. And hopefully I will see you in the next video, whenever that might be. So click the little subscribe button and the bell guy next to it for your notifications, and I will see you out there. Later.